And then Mr. Chairman, once he gives the notice, we can begin.
All right, we're good to go.
Okay. Good afternoon. This is the meeting of the City of Mobile's Board of Adjustment for Monday, December 7th, 2020. First, let me call the meeting to order with the roll call. Mr. Davis?
Here.
Mr. Coleman? Okay, absent. Mr. Golden?
Here.
Mr.
Finley.
Metcalf?
Here.
Mr. Milling?
Here.
Mr. Burrows? Absent. And I'm William Guess. That constitutes 5 members, which meets the requirement for a quorum. Takes all 5 members to vote to affirm a motion, either in favor or to deny. And therefore, we can proceed with the meeting. Let's first start with motion to adopt the agenda. Chair entertain.
So moved.
Have a motion to approve the agenda. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Second. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, the agenda is adopted as presented. Well, let me first go over some basics regarding this meeting. General procedures for the remote meeting are as follows. When an application is called, staff will admit the concerned parties associated with an application into the meeting. Once those parties have joined the meeting, I will state the board's rules regarding the number of speakers as well as speaking time. Each applicant is limited to a maximum of 4 speakers in support and 4 individuals in opposition. Limit 5 minutes each. And then at the beginning of the public hearing, the applicant will present their case. Up to 3 additional speakers if applicable. For each speaker at the end of the presentation, I'll ask if there's any questions of the board members. Actually, we'll ask throughout the presentation if necessary. Once the board concludes there are questions of the speakers in support of an application, I will then call for interested parties to speak in opposition. At the end of each speaker's presentation, we'll again ask if there's any questions of the board. The applicant will be given an opportunity to review the comments in accordance with board's rules with 2 minutes. After rebuttal, I will declare the public hearing closed and the board will go into deliberation. After the board has rendered a decision, the applicant and concerned parties will leave the meeting or will be sent back to the waiting room by the host where they will disconnect. As a reminder, we have to have 5 votes to approve a variance or to affirm a motion, correct? For approval. All right, the first application is a holdover from last month. This is 6356, 5279, 5251, 4007, 3892, 2258 regarding 1363 Government Street. And if the host will allow the interested parties to join the meeting.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I have admitted Shaughnessy Howell Brooks, who is representing the applicant. Before she begins, I do need to read into the record. The board was provided an email in opposition from Brenda Bolton, as well as portal comments in opposition from the following people: Harold Bolton, Susan Thomas, Betty Champion, John Gillis, Jacob Smith, Caroline Jumper, Jacob Thomas, Jennifer Humphreys, Edward Flott, Chris Enzor, Anna Bush, Janine Stebbins, Julie Hoagland, and Teresa Tessner. The only person that is signed up to attend today's meeting and has been admitted into the meeting is Ms. Brooks for the applicant.
Okay. And let's proceed with the applicant's rep.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Your name and address for the record, please.
All right. My name is Shaughnessy Howell Brooks. My address is 321 Lakeview Drive, Mobile, Alabama. Zip is 36695.
Okay, and if you'll proceed with your application, the staff's recommended for approval with some conditions.
Right.
And as the applicant's rep, are they in agreement with the staff's recommendations?
As to the approvals, yes.
And with the conditions that requires architectural review board approval and after the fact signing permits and all the other codes and ordinances, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Understanding.
All
Mr.
right.
Chairman,
Yes.
we're recommending approval of the canopy sign, but we're recommending denial of the monument sign, I believe.
Okay.
Right.
All right. So the canopy sign is recommended for approval and the monument sign is not. And you're in agreement with the canopy sign with the conditions. So let's talk about the monument sign, which was recommended for denial. Why do you think the board should consider otherwise?
Well, there are a few reasons. And I just wanted to go over some points. My client is currently in Jordan, so he's given me some points to share with the board on his behalf. My understanding is that there have been some complaints from or objections from some of the local residents, and he wanted me to address those specifically. Some as to non-complying signage, which I understood was removed last Wednesday, the temporary signage. There are still some signages to be removed by Coca-Cola. Those are on the windows. They're the only ones that can remove those. And so I understand that those are in process of being removed. The issue was also raised as to certificate of appropriateness for the building paint. I understand that is also being addressed. So we're trying to get those things handled as well. As to the monument sign, the sign already exists. So the application or the applicant is asking simply that there be a change to the existing sign rather than adding additional signage as to the monument sign. That would be to include a digital component. My understanding is that this is Texaco is providing this sign, and this is an update that they now use. Texaco supports the newer signage rather than the older signage. It doesn't scroll or blink. It simply displays the gas prices, and it would be similar to the application that was approved for the Shell station across the street for the same considerations. The considerations that weighed in favor of the Shell station being granted that variance would also apply here. They have similar corporate requirements, and so the same circumstances would apply. In addition to it being an unfair advantage to give a competitor this variance without giving him the variance, we would also note that signage like buildings have to be periodically upgraded and maintained, or they fall into disrepair, and that makes them unsightly. So rather than, as some of the residents have indicated, the new digital signage being an eyesore, we actually feel the opposite is true. Uniformity is a key component of neighborhood aesthetics, and that means if the business across the street has this clean, new, updated sign, and my client is left with an older sign that Texaco no longer supports, then my client actually looks like the eyesore in comparison. So granting the variance would mean that my client not only has a clean and updated sign, but the businesses along the corridor would then have a uniformity, which would improve the corridor's appearance.
Okay, any questions of the board for the applicant's rep?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
the question for staff is the request for the sign, for the monument sign, is it the same size?
The sign is different than what is currently on site.
Do we
So it would be replacing the sign cabinet itself, I believe.
Do we have a photo of the existing sign?
I think Margaret can bring that up using Google Street View.
I think we need to see that.
Hold on, y'all are testing my skills.
You're very skillful, Margaret.
Okay.
Ms. Brooks, while she's doing that, I have a question.
Certainly.
What is the setback of this sign from either the sidewalk or the drive area for access?
All right, let me look. That information, I just don't have it right here in front of me. Hold on just a moment. Let's see. You're looking for the setback of the current sign?
Well, where this one will be currently placed. Or where, yeah, for that matter, where the other one is.
Yes, because my understanding is they're going to pull the current sign and then put the new one in the same place unless I'm mistaken about that, but that's my understanding from my client.
Right.
Let's see, I'm looking at the elevation right now.
If I remember right, the other applicant, the Shell station, part of the issue with the hardship was safety of the individuals changing out the pricing
Mm-hmm.
because it was right almost in the drive area. It seemed like for that particular that sign. I mean, it was right off of the drive area.
Yeah, this, looking at the elevation, the current sign and the new one as well are right there off of that sidewalk, right next to the driveway. So in other words, there is, it looks like 2 feet off of the sidewalk,
Okay.
It's 2.1 feet.
correctly? 2.1 feet, yeah.
Yeah. So it's almost exact same issue as the other applicant previously approved.
Right.
Well, Margaret, are you having any success?
Well, since you can't see it, I'm gonna say no. Hold on.
Let's see if I've got anything.
I take it you aren't seeing anything new.
We see
No.
the same.
All right, stop this. Let me stop that. Okay.
There you go.
Okay.
So the existing monument sign is mounted on the ground, and the new one, based on the elevation that was provided, is going to be elevated 2 feet off of the base at that location.
But primarily in the same location. Okay.
That's my understanding.
Bert, what's the size of the current sign, or do we know that?
I don't have that handy, and it wasn't provided with the application. Let's see.
Man. I'm on mute. I'm not on mute. Here's that existing sign. It's like 3 by 10. The one lying on the ground.
Yeah, I would agree. It's within that range.
Is it beyond our scope to say that that sign should be back on the ground as opposed to on a short piling? I mean, I guess we're just voting on whether or not it can be electronic, right?
I think it's in the excess of the size. Is that not the case, Bert?
I haven't found an answer for you yet, so let me look in one other location.
I believe, and Doug, please correct me if I'm wrong. The board can apply conditions to mitigate any potential negative impacts associated with the granting of the variance. So
Correct. We cannot force them to do anything with that existing sign, but if we approve another one, we could limit the size of it, the height of it, any conditions to protect the neighborhood. You could authorize a new sign that doesn't have digital, that is more in tune with today's signage.
Okay.
And the existing sign, the monument sign dimensions stated that it was 4 feet tall and 8 feet wide.
So that puts the top,
appear to be that, but
So that puts the top of it at 6 feet off the ground.
well, the existing sign is supposed to be 4 feet tall by 8 feet wide.
Oh, existing. Okay, but how about the new sign?
The new sign would be 2 feet off the ground and then would be about 6 feet tall and 8 feet wide.
So that's
So what-
8 feet off the ground for the
Yes.
new at the top. Okay, that's pretty tall.
Yeah, I mean, that, outside of the other issues with the other signage where they're just blatantly out of compliance with, the sign code. I mean, I think if they're promising to come in favor of that, in compliance, then I could see replacing a sign on the ground as it sits, but no more than the 4 feet above.
So the same profile as the existing sign? Is that what you're saying,
Yes.
Louis?
Yes,
And based on the location, it looks like the west elevation of it is right off of that drive lane, that entrance, which I think makes it similar in nature to the one we approved some time ago from a safety concern. Right there, yeah,
right, similar location.
yeah, where they're trying to change out the numbers while they're watching for oncoming vehicles.
Well, the one at the Shell station is considerably lower than what this proposed is.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant or for staff? All right, Margaret, do we have somebody in the waiting room to speak either in favor or opposition to this application?
No, sir. The board was provided with the neighborhood opposition, the email from Ms. Bolton, and then all of the comments that were uploaded into the portal.
Right. And the architectural review board would still have to approve anything outside the current standards for the historical areas?
They will have to review and approve the location, the materials, things of that nature. But once the board approves the number and any restrictions upon size and location, then it's strictly in the architectural review board's hands to review the colors and materials.
Well, Margaret, this is Doug. I think Mr. Guest might have touched on this, but I'm not sure I understood. Just so we can be consistent, what was the basis of the variance across the street for the Shell?
Bert's gonna have to look that up. I'm out of screens to pull up.
Okay, all right.
well, I believe that staff had recommended denial of that sign, and that during the course of the meeting, when I think Mr. Griffith came up and explained the situation and the danger, that the justification behind that variance was just the basic issues.
Okay.
Okay, any further comments? All right, so we have no one either in favor or opposition to the application in the waiting room. Therefore, the hearing regarding this application is now closed. Staff recommends approval of the canopy sign, obviously cleaning up any signs that are in the right of way or in areas that are not consistent with the current codes. And then the approval architectural review board, after the fact signage, permits, and then other compliance. And then the monument sign was recommended for denial. And the board has asked a series of questions as it relates to the location, size, and restrictions that the board may place if one is to be granted. So Chair will entertain a motion regarding this application.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the electronic signage as long as the footprint and height remain similar as long as, you know, in location to the current sign that's sitting there, and, you know, prior to any building, you know, permits being issued, that they need to get within compliance.
Okay, and
Second.
can you add a requirement that the sign remains static?
Yes, and that the sign remains static.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
just for the record, since this is of considerable neighborhood importance, and it's my neighborhood too, but I think I'd like to just state for the record that that the existing sign is old, and it is a manual sign, and that upgrading it is probably a benefit to the neighborhood. But I agree with Mr. Golden that he didn't say this, but indirectly we're saying that the proposed sign of 8.5 feet wide by 8 feet tall from that's proposed is too much. So with that, I just wanted to say for the record that why we were doing this.
okay, and Mr. Golden, so
Thank you, Ed.
the
Yeah.
specifications regarding the sign that you're proposing to approve would be approximately 4 feet tall by 8 or so feet wide, in line with the existing sign. Same profile as far
Right,
as-
it would be the smaller 4 feet tall by 8 foot wide, or to match existing.
Correct. Okay. All right. Any other questions of the board? All
If
those-
I'm
Yes.
sorry, I want to make sure we're clarifying. Mr. Golden, are you wanting that a monument style sign that's lowered so that the overall height is essentially 4 feet? No 2-foot pole under it?
Correct. It should not be any higher than existing.
Okay. And then my other question is, of course, does the board still wants compliance with lighting so that it does not exceed the lighting in the ordinance as far as the number of nits?
Yeah,
Okay, I have a
and
motion.
that they have to be in compliance before any permits are issued.
Will do. Well, the permits are supposed to be to issue it, but we will make sure that if this existing sign is not compliant, it's removed before we will issue.
Well, and I'm speaking to site-wide. That's a disaster of signage over there.
Okay. I understand.
All right. I have a motion to approve with conditions. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Mr. Davis?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Uh,
Anyone opposed? Okay, motion carries. All right, Margaret, if you'll allow our applicant's rep to leave the meeting and bring in our next speaker. And this will be application 6359, 1710 Gulffield Drive North.
Well, I'm on the Zoom call, so they ain't answered yet.
You're in the meeting? Okay, Mr. Chairman, I have admitted Lee Waldrop, who is, I believe, for the and I have also admitted
I'm on the Zoom call, so they
Diane McMillan and Jakarta July.
Okay, you're gonna have to mute them until you finish saying who they are, because we're hearing all the background noise.
Lee Waldrop, who is, I believe, for, okay. I have muted everyone that I just admitted. which is again Lee Waldrop for the applicant, and then in opposition, Diane McMillan and Jakarta July. If I could, before we completely get started, the board was provided with opposition from Kenita Harper and Diane McMillan, which included a petition of the 59 signatures in opposition to this request.
Okay. All right, you want to unmute Lee
The
Walter so that we can speak to the applicant's rep?
Yes.
All right. Lee Waldrop, can you hear us?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes. All right, your name and address for the record, please.
Lee Waldrop, 456 South Broad Street, Mobile, Alabama, 36603.
Okay, and have you seen that staff's recommended this for denial? You want to tell us why the board should consider otherwise?
Yes, sir. I did see that. Our company purchased this particular property. It was being used as a rental property prior to us purchasing it. So we did miss the fact that it was zoned R1 single family residence. We did purchase it with 2 renters living there, with the homeowner living in the main dwelling. We did not create any new kitchens or bathrooms or anything. And so when we bought this property, we updated some of the features, such as a new roof, painted, did some flooring. Our sister company, Revitalized Realty, professionally manages this property. And so that would be my case, is that it was used in the capacity of multiple renters in the property before we purchased it. I do believe if we were to sell this property, I do think that it would be a homeowner possibly who rented out the 2 separate units. I don't know if anything would substantially change regarding that parcel. Should we sell it? I do think with it already being 3 separate units before we purchased it, that if there are resident concerns about traffic or anything like that, I don't know if it was not classified, if our property management company did not manage the property, if it would eliminate anything. We do professionally screen our tenants. 2 of those units are 1 bedroom, 1 bath. So you're not going to have multiple cars per unit on those. We have only allowed up to 4 cars on that property at any given time. And so that would, be the basis for my case. We're trying to make the neighborhood better. There's multiple rental properties all in that neighborhood. And, our goal is to professionally manage a renovated property and, add value to everybody's, properties along the way. I do understand there's some concerns with it being a rental property. I do just want to clarify one more time, when we purchased it, it was already in that capacity and we did not create these 2 additional units.
There's 2 structures shown on the site plan. Actually, yeah, 2.
Mm-hmm.
So 1-story dwelling is the one that's to the, I guess, the north.
Yes, sir. That's a duplex.
Okay, and then you got a 1-story that's a larger structure. So there's 2 in that one.
Yes, sir. A and B is 2. Before we purchased it, the prior homeowner had converted a carport into a 1-bedroom, a 1-bedroom residence.
Okay, how many power connections do we have to this lot?
I believe there's a 200 amp service on the main building, and The electrician ran a separate box over to the additional apartment C unit.
Okay, so they really have one power connection, probably 1 meter, as I'm requesting or trying to clarify.
I believe so. Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Any questions of the board for Mr. Waldrop? Okay. Margaret, can you allow us to hear from those that are in opposition?
Yes, the first person I'm going to have speak is, apologies, Diane McMillan, and I'm asking her to unmute. If she can hear us, she'll need to hit *6 on her phone.
Okay.
Ms. McMillan?
Ms. McMillan, can you hear us?
Ms. McMillan, make sure your phone is not muted. Can you hear us now?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. We can hear you now. Thank you.
All right.
Okay. My mother lived next door to that property for 40 some years, and it was a single dwelling. The man that Dave that got that property, he was renting that property, and he decided that he couldn't pay the rent, so he had people rent rooms. It was not a 3 A, B, and C. He only had rooms that he was trying to renovate. But this man has come in and made separate dwellings, and it was this house that Dave had was just, he lived up front and he rented the rooms that were in on the property, but he did not make apartments. They were not apartments, because my mother lived there all the time, and I saw Dave all the time. But now he has 3 A, B, and C properties there. One is just a efficiency room, and the bigger room that he's talking about, he made into a 2-bedroom apartment, which is what really supposed to be one family living there. And that was one family there until this man who's now there got 3 rentals that's in there now. It has decreased the property value of my home, which is next door. He has come in and have these tenants there now, living there now. Yeah, it's 3 cars, but it has decreased our property value around in the neighborhood, and everybody is upset about that. It has not increased the value of our property, Mr. I didn't get your name, but it has decreased because not only you having people to come in to rent this spot, it's too small. It's for one family rental, and that's what it's been the whole time. Yes, it is some people that live there around there are renting the property that don't live there anymore, but they're not renting out 1 A, B, and C apartments. They're just renting their whole dwelling there. And I'm not pleased with it at all because it's right next door to me. And I've been there. I've been there a long time, and I want to really for it to stop. I don't want it to get started, and nobody else in the community. That's the reason we got a petition. They're against that. Yes, one dwelling is okay, but when you got multi dwellings there, like 3 A, B, and C, okay, if they move out, then somebody else move in, and we don't know how that's going to be. So we want it to stop to be one dwelling, and that's it. No more than that. One dwelling. And I'm totally against it. Like I said, my mother lived there for 40 some years, and the people that have lived there, around there is homesteaders. They own their property.
Ms. McMillan, I didn't have a chance to ask you because we have to formally start with a statement with your name and address.
My name is Diane McMillan, the 1712 North Guffield Drive.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
question for Ms. McMillan.
yes, please.
Ms. McMillan, just looking at the photographs, it appears that that this property, both the front house and the back house, looks considerably better than it did just a few years ago. And one get your statement on that, and then secondly, you made a statement that it has decreased the property values in the neighborhood and next door. How can you quantify that?
Because, well, you asked me about the property was run down a couple of years ago, but Dave kept the property. He tried to fix it. He was like a handyman. So he kept the property up. He did some things, but it wasn't really what I would say deplorable, where it needs to be somebody to come in and make him clean it up. It wasn't like that, but he kept it up to par. But to have a zone that's already zoned for one family dwelling, to have it to become where it's multiple people living in one house, like apartment, it does decrease the value of the property. And you know that if you're going to put some apartments into a place where a subdivision where people are paying $200,000 home, and you put a apartment there, of course it's going to decrease the value. It's not going to sell. If I tried to sell my house that's next door, I wouldn't get what I'm asking for when I have improved my property. And then this apartment right next door, people they don't want to live next door to apartments. Not really, I'm going to say homeowners. But if I'm renting an apartment, if I'm renting a house, some of it doesn't matter to some people. It doesn't matter because I'm renting that house, but I own my house. And it bothers me.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other questions of the board for Ms. McMillan? All right. Thank you for your comment.
Yes, I have one question for Ms. McMillan.
Yes.
Ms. McMillan, earlier you stated that when Fred was living there, that he was renting out rooms to other people. So there were multiple people operating out.
His name is Dave.
I'm sorry.
Dave rented. He just rented a room, and those people stayed there maybe 2 nights, 3 nights. But he wasn't trying to make it into an apartment. He just needed some extra money, and that's the only thing that was going on there. It wasn't made into an apartment. No, he lived in that house himself. Him, his girlfriend, and sometime I think she brought her son or something, but it was always one family in there. Some of those people were like his friends or something that came from Mississippi. I'm telling you what I know, not what I assume. I'm telling you because I talk to him every day.
Gotcha. And that's what I'm trying to clarify, is just the difference in your mind of, it is multiple people in each scenario, but from your standpoint, it was still one person living there. So it was a single family
one person
residence of which renting out other rooms, as opposed to what you're against is 100% rental property. Is that right?
I'm against the apartments, period, in a single family dwelling that I know to be just that. When I say Dave had friends, he was from Mississippi, so he had friends to come over and they stay, but I'm talking, he was the sole owner of the house. It wasn't like he had divided the house up like this house has been divided when this man came and started renovating. And if I had known that's what he was doing, I would have said something a long time ago. But I thought he was renovating the house for a single dwelling.
Thank you.
Any further questions of the board? All right, Margaret, do you have another individual wishes to speak in opposition?
Yes, I'm fixing to unmute Jakarta July.
I
Ma'am,
think I'm unmuted.
you are.
Can you
Yes.
hear me? Okay.
If you'll give us your name and address for the record, please.
Okay. My name is Jakarta July. I live at 1314 East Gulffield Drive. That's around the corner.
Okay.
My parents been at this home for 46 years, and it has been an improvement on what was done, but we have a lot of small children. And my concern when renters come in, the criminal history, sex offender history, before Dave even got there, a lot of people were interested in the property to make it a single family because there's a lot of Section 8 homes in the area. That's fine because that is a single family home. But my concern is the smaller children, their sex offenders, criminal history. And I understand that the man said that they have an extensive background check on people. That's my concern. The neighborhood itself, if the property value goes up or down, I don't know. I know it has went down, not just because of his property, because of the area itself. There's families moving in, and my concern is just truly the criminal history of the people that will be residing in those ABC apartments.
Do you know of any properties that are in that same area that have been converted to multifamily? Maybe not official?
No, sir.
Okay.
No,
so
sir.
this would be the only one of its kind.
In our area, yes, sir. From Maryvale back, from Dolphin Island Parkway back to I-65. This will be the only one in this area.
Okay.
And when I say 65, no, that's 10. I'm sorry, Interstate 10, because around the corner used to be the projects or Birdsville, and they have closed those down. They're slowly evacuating or evicting the people out of the area.
Okay.
But those were single family as well.
Any questions of the board for this individual in opposition? Okay, well, thank you. Ms. Pappas, will you allow Mr. Waldrop back in if he has any rebuttal to the statements by the residents?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Mr. Waldrop, do you have anything to say in response? You have a 2-minute time limit.
Yes, please. I just want to reiterate that the property was in extreme disrepair when we took it on. We have, I believe, increased the property values in the neighborhood due to remodeling this property with new roofs, 3 new central heat and air systems. We put granite countertops, white shaker cabinets, new flooring, new paint. Our property management company professionally screens. We have minimal credit score. We have background checks, eviction history checks, criminal checks to make sure that we put the best tenant family in place that we can. I have before pictures that clearly showed where there was 3 separate kitchens. There was 3 units on this property, and I have after photos to show the renovated product afterwards that looks better than even the Google map that you were just showing. And so I would argue that the neighborhood residents' property values have increased. I will be glad to get an appraisal, do some type of contingency to show that, this is a valuable property now. Our goal is to make sure that our properties that we manage are upstanding properties and be a steward for the community and make sure that we do not manage rundown properties, nor do we allow people who are not going to pay rent or doing criminal activity in our properties, or they will be evicted. So, I just want to, that's my case, that we're coming in and we feel very strongly that we've increased the property values in the neighborhood.
Okay, Bert or Margaret, do we have the pictures that he's referencing of the pre-existing conditions of kitchens and?
I can see them.
No, photographs were not provided of the interior of the structure.
Okay. All right, any questions of the board for Mr. Waldrop after his response?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Mr. Waldrop.
Yes, sir.
Just it may seem irrelevant, but I'm just curious, is Revitalize Mobile a for-profit organization?
Yes, sir.
Okay, how many properties do y'all own and manage?
Revitalize Mobile, our company owns some properties, about 28 right now. Our property management company, Revitalize Realty, manages about 300 doors.
Oh, okay, so y'all own about 28 that you manage with your company, but also you do third-party management for about 300 others.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and this is the type of property that y'all will take and renovate.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and again, I'm not being critical. I just didn't know who when you see Revitalize, you don't know if that's a for-profit or a nonprofit type, semi public agency or not. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I've got a question for Mr. Waldrop. Lee, with regards to this, have you met with the neighborhood at all and to try to talk to them, or, prior to this, to try to help, allay their concerns at all?
No, sir. I would be glad to do so. And that's one thing that we were at fault for in the beginning, was not recognizing that it was zoned R1 and assuming, since it was rented to three different dwellings already, that we came in and freshened the property up and updated it. And so we really did not think that we were changing anything in terms of what had been done at that property prior. So we did not feel it necessary, nor did I know of any of these concerns. I have not seen a neighbor come over or anything, or I would have definitely addressed that. And I'll be glad to in the future. If I'd have known there was this much concern, I would have definitely addressed it.
Because I'll just tell you from my perspective, as sitting on the board, is that, it's a touchy thing to, have a neighborhood that, may be, in a sensitive area that you start, if we start doing this, kind of in allowing, multifamily or, multiple units in a single family, it can open that up potentially to, more applications and to go against kind of the neighborhood will of something that hadn't been done or a precedent's been set, to me just is concerning, because I think there has sometimes historically been a precedent of when that, type of use happens, that it's harder to police, and that sometimes there are things that are, detrimental to the neighborhood. And so, just from my own standpoint, it's hard to justify, doing that in a neighborhood that doesn't have, any type of history or precedent to that. So, I do think that it would be, really important to try to work something out with them if that opportunity, arises, because just, for me personally, it's going to be a hard, application to approve, with the objections that you've got, and with a kind of a lack of, of that type of product in the neighborhood.
Okay. Go ahead, proceed.
My question, well,
Now, hold on.
Dave,
Ms.
sir.
McMillan? Is
This
this,
is
No,
Mr.
this,
Klein.
I'm sorry, Margaret,
Yes,
can you mute everyone so I can make a comment? When we went back to Mr. Waldrop, we concluded the comments from anyone in opposition. I'm sorry if you were trying to make a point at this time in the meeting. Mr. Waldrop was given 2 minutes to provide a rebuttal, and then now the board is given an opportunity to ask questions of Mr. Waldrop before we close out any public comments. All right, any other questions of the board for the applicant?
I guess, Mr. Guest, I'm sorry, one follow-up.
Yes.
Lee, if we were, I guess, open to holding this over to give you an opportunity to meet with the neighbors and try to, help alleviate their concerns, is that something that you're open to and willing to do?
Yes, I will.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. In light of the fact that you have individuals in the neighborhood that are in opposition, is it your position you request that we hold this over, or do you wish for the board to go ahead and conduct a vote? Mr. Waldrop?
If you don't mind, if we can hold it over and I can talk to some of the residents, now that I know that there's a concern, I would be much appreciated.
Okay. All right. With the applicant's request for a holdover, Chair will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve a holdover, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Mr. Waldrop, before we vote on the holdover, is 30 days sufficient for a opportunity to meet with the residents?
Yes.
Okay, so Mr. Milling, a 30-day holdover
Yes,
to the
sir.
next meeting?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, I have a motion to hold it over. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion for a holdover, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Okay. Margaret, please just make sure that the individuals that were in opposition understand that we've held this over. They have an opportunity to speak at the next meeting, should they decide to join us.
we'll let them know.
Okay, and that'll conclude this application. Let's go to let me make sure I'm still on. Sorry, I switched my agenda. Okay, we're on application 6360, 6152, is that correct? 3265 Airport Boulevard?
That's correct. And I am admitting John Gabriel into the meeting. Mr. Gabriel, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
thank you.
Okay.
Okay, and do we have anyone either in favor or opposition, Margaret, that we're joining?
Mr. Gabriel is for the applicant, and he is the only person admitted into the meeting. We had no opposition or no further support signed up.
Okay. Mr. Gabriel, your name and address for the record.
John Gabriel. The address of our property is 3255 Airport Boulevard, Suite 120.
Okay. And have you seen the staff's recommendation for approval?
Have I seen? I haven't seen a response, no.
Okay, and there's conditions associated with it, with the size
Hey guys,
And
if you mind, I was watching you guys on YouTube and somehow I need to mute that. I'm getting a bad echo on my end.
yeah, please do.
Let me see.
You need to completely turn off your live stream.
All right, if you would, let me leave the meeting and then I guess, sorry about that.
No, don't leave the meeting.
No,
Oh, don't
We're
leave?
not getting back.
simply close your YouTube live stream.
Oh, there, I got it now. Hold on. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes,
All right, sorry. Thank you for your patience on that. Sorry about that.
no,
Okay.
no problem.
All right. Just to clarify again, the staff's recommended for approval with conditions, limitation of the size of the sign as submitted in the application, obtaining proper sign permit, and other compliance with municipal codes and ordinances. So are you in agreement with those conditions?
I think so. I think,
Go
yes,
ahead.
sir. If I understand you correctly, I think so. Yes, sir.
All right. Any questions of the board? Okay, I have a question. This particular location, it looks like there's 3 partials or 3 sections to that complex. So it's at the end. Now I can see that.
Yes.
Okay. And for the staff, what are we considering the street frontage? Because it says 2, I believe.
Correct. These are the only 2 right-of-way frontages here.
Okay. And which end of the building is it on again?
It's on this end, but you do have some trees that have obscured some of the view. So the additional, as you're approaching from the east, the additional signage can help with that. Additionally, people that are shopping in the mall can see, although this is a private access road, they can then see the tenant and enter from the rear, although it is facing Airport Boulevard.
Okay. And the current, well, there's no signs currently posted, correct?
Correct.
So, Margaret, if I may interrupt just a little bit for clarity. So the city, I'm not sure if it's the city or who, but there's been some road construction done where they actually eliminated that street completely. The one, it's to the left of your rectangle, your yellow rectangle, that one. That road is now gone and they repaved that whole service road so that now where it says Airport Boulevard Service Road down there, that is actually been blacktopped and kind of 3-lane to where that is your primary service road for I-65.
Okay. If you will, provide the drawing that shows the location of the proposed signs.
And then while y'all are talking, I will clarify too, we already submitted and y'all approved, or the city or however that works, the sign for the front and the rear. So we already have approval and permits and everything for that. And those actually were installed last Thursday. So that one right there that's on the end cap, we're kind of asking for that additional exposure to on Airport Boulevard, the people headed westbound. We feel like that'll be a better visual for our company right there. As Margaret kind of alluded, there's some short palm trees that are directly in front of our, it's right there on Airport Boulevard. It's right in front of our shopping center. For traffic coming through, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Gabriel, if you will, for a second. Margaret, go back to the legend. It shows us where the signs are proposed. Okay, if you will, with your mouse, identify where we're looking at putting signage.
That is correct.
Okay, and we have already signage on the north and the south.
That is correct.
Elevation. So we're looking at adding, which is on, is that lane now eliminated or is it still present? Is that one of them you were referencing has been removed?
No, the one, I guess it would be on the south side, the south of that shopping center. Oh, I'm sorry, the one that was removed was the one on the west side.
Yeah, it was on the opposite end of the
That's correct.
Building. Okay, so you have one on the north and south, and you're looking at one on the east side of the building, is what? Okay. All right, I have no further questions. Any questions of the board? Okay, I have
a question for,
Yes,
go ahead.
Mr. Golden, proceed. No, go ahead.
Yeah, just that, so the tenant in the middle will be allowed 2 signs by right? And I don't know if there's a tenant there now, front and rear, and then is there a monument sign existing?
No, so no monument sign, and you would probably be right. I guess the middle space is currently empty. If it, once it does, you know, take ownership, I would assume someone would put signs in the front and the rear.
Yeah, one per
And,
front.
Okay.
What
All
about
right,
the other tenant on the opposite end of the facility? Do they have 3 signs?
So currently they have 2 signs. They were probably granted one because of that street that's no longer there. So they have one on their west side and their north side. It's a sleep number.
Okay. All right. This is one for the staff. On the opposite service road, at one time, there was a applicant for, I think, Blue Rabbit or somebody that I remember. We had a similar kind of access issue, and they were permitted, I think, only 1, maybe 2 signs at that time. Do you remember that applicant? It's been quite a few years.
That was a multi-tenant building across, yes, over in Springdale Boulevard, or Springdale Mall parking lot outside of the MAP area.
Yeah.
And I think they were a middle tenant in the building, and they requested signage on both the east facade and the west facade.
Right, and they were denied and only allowed the 1 sign, but they may have had a monument or some other sign.
I think they were only allowed 1 sign, and they ended up putting it on the west facade.
Right. Okay. All right, any other questions for Mr. Gabriel? And Margaret, you said we have no one in the waiting room, either in favor or opposition, correct?
Correct.
Okay. I know staff's recommended for approval. I'm trying to understand why this applicant should get 3 for this particular when they've got a north and south sign already, which is the primary drive areas. The west, the east sign would actually be facing their parking lot primarily. Where's your entrance? It's off of the north side, correct?
It's actually off of the south side. There's a drive-in. Yes, exactly where that arrow is. You drive in there, loop around, you know, the whole complex, and you come out the other side, or come out the other south side.
So the south side actually has the sign above the door.
Right. Exactly like they looped, whoever has the mouse, exactly like they looped around.
Okay. All right. Well, staff's recommended for approval with conditions. The applicant's rep has agreed to the conditions. Chair will entertain a motion.
Make a motion that we approve, Mr. Chairman, based on staff recommendation.
Okay. And Margaret, if you'll mute Mr. Gabriel, this has completed our public hearing. All right, I have a motion to approve the staff recommendations. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Chair votes to oppose. So the motion fails. And the application is denied, correct? All right, that concludes that application. Mr. Gabriel, if you wish to get with staff, they'll explain the how the voting works and the fact that the motion failed. All right, we'll go to the next application, 6361. And this is 2401 Dermott Street.
Margaret, you're on mute.
You're also still on the oh, okay, now you're back on the right one.
Yeah. I have admitted Ava Spites. I apologize if I am butchering her name. Can you hear us?
Ms. Spites, can you hear us?
Okay. I've also admitted Chris Enzor. She is in opposition. Miss Enzor, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. Chris, I have admitted you. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Is Miss Spites, I apologize. Is she with you?
She was in the waiting room.
I've admitted her, and I've asked her to unmute, and we aren't getting audio from her.
I'm texting her now.
Here she's on a computer, connecting to audio. It's not connecting to audio.
For Ava?
Yes, hold on. It says it's still trying.
Her message is she's still trying.
Okay. If she isn't able to connect via her computer, she can call in. If you would enter her phone number into the chat and send it to me, I can then admit her into the meeting via telephone.
Okay. Let me get that for you.
You know what? I have a number for her. The last two numbers are 64.
Correct.
Okay, if she would call in, I can admit her on the telephone. Oh, hold on, she's trying to get in.
Hello?
Yes.
Hello?
Good
There
afternoon.
we go.
Oh, I don't know what was going on with the computer. I kept hearing y'all ask if I was there, but so I did it on my phone.
All right. Ava, if you'll give us your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, Ava Spates, 8037 Crossbow Lane, Theodore, Alabama, 36582.
Okay, and the staff's recommended that this application be denied. You want to tell us why the board on it should consider otherwise?
Yes, first of all, I was reading all the comments down at the bottom. I've been a resident of that community for over 26 years. when I first started and I got my license, it was for 2145 Senator Street, which is the home right behind, which is the street right behind Government Street. My mother lives there. So I looked at this lot. I passed by for, I guess, 8 or 9 years. It's been empty. So I sell cars. My full-time job, I work offshore. So I'm only conducting my business from October to like February during income tax season time. So even when I moved and bought my home 6 years ago, people in that community still go to my mother's house asking about buying cars. So my thing is, basically what I'm saying is, I understand the people who sent in their request and they're saying they don't want a car lot there because they're thinking it's going to be like the Savage Yard, which is across the street, or either the auto mechanic shop, which is about 3 doors down. But my plan is to take that lot. At any given time, it will be no more than 10 cars parked out there for sale. And that way, people in my community, instead of going to places like Lexus, a Mobile, the Ford, the Chevrolet shop, offered my community cars at an affordable price. So like I said, and then another reason why I chose that, like somebody wrote in saying that they was talking about the acreage. I personally don't need an acre or 2 acres of land to run my business. That that lot right there is big enough to where I can, like I say, at any given time, it's not going to be more than 10 cars. I can conduct my business the 4 to 5 months when I am in town, and then also I can go and see my mother because she lives on the next street back there. And since I've been in my first license that I got at 2145 Senator Street, I was doing the business from my home. But the state of Alabama switched it to where if you're going to conduct a business selling cars and it's more than 5 vehicles, you have to get a lot. So that's why I look for somewhere close by my mother's home. That way I could stay in my community. And this lot, I call a realtor, and it was zone B3. It was zone commercial. So so when I purchased it, I just assumed that I would be able to do a car lot there. And what I'm trying to do is stop everyone from going to my mother's house. Because like I said, I only sell cars from October till the end of tax season, which is like February. Stop people from going to my mother's house because she's elderly now. And I don't want to put her at risk of COVID. So that's why I looked around in the neighborhood and I found a lot that I could use. And another reason why I chose to get that lot, because it's right in my neighborhood. And as far as, I don't think I would have the risk of break-ins and all that because everybody knows me as well as my mother. So like once COVID came, I said, instead of trying to conduct business from my home, I need to try to find a lot somewhere close in the community. That way, my customers that I deal with in the community will be able to come to my location and get affordable cars. Because I've been in that community for the last 26 years. I even have a couple of teachers from Little Flower, because my kids went to Little Flower, who when income tax season come around, or either when I'm out to sea during the months, they contact me, and their daughters and their granddaughters still buy from me. I'm not like a big dealership like Toyota or Ford. I pretty much just sell affordable cars to people in my community that can pretty much afford what I sell. Someone said something about broke down cars. I wouldn't buy Savage cars. I wouldn't have cars that are wrecked on my lot. And then another thing go ahead, I'm sorry.
She was just giving you a time notice. You got 1 minute left.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So basically, like when people normally get money, they get their money and they go out West Mobile and they invest their money out further. But my thing is to take the money that my own community been I'm trying to put back into the community by putting a car lot there on Government Street.
Okay. I have a question for you. When you purchase cars to resell,
Mhm.
how do you obtain them? How do they get to the car lot?
I drive them there.
Okay, but if you're out of town,
use a trailer.
How do you receive them?
Well, normally when I go to an auction, I only buy one at a time. I have a car and I transport the vehicle from, like if it's in Pensacola, I pick it up in Pensacola and I drive it back to the lot.
Okay. And on looking at the map that we see, it looks like Pine Hill and Government, there's a vacant lot there as well, because you stated that the lot that you purchased was a little larger than you needed. Did you look at that lot, which is Zone B3?
Oh, see, I didn't know that the lot that I purchased wasn't Zone B3. It just said commercial property.
Okay.
I'm sorry, what you say?
No, I just confirming what you said. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Any questions of the board and how do you say your last name so we don't mispronounce it?
It's Spakes.
Spakes. Okay. Do we have any questions of the board for the applicant? Okay. Do we have anyone that's in the waiting room in support of the application? Is Ms. Moore in support?
I have her signed up in support, yes.
Okay. Ms. Moore, can you hear us? Ms. Moore? We're unable to hear you. All we hear is static.
I'm on a city Zoom meeting and I had no idea zoning. Come on, can you run with me? Run with me. Thank you. We want to run fast, okay?
All right. Ms. Moore, are you going to say, do you have a statement regarding this application? All right, let's go to, do you have anyone in opposition at this time? If you'll mute Ms. Moore, yeah, there we go. Do we have somebody, Enzor, I think it was, in opposition?
Yes, sir. Ms. Ensor?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, your name and address, please.
Chris Enzor. The address is 2307 Government Street, and I also own 2307 is my business. 2305. Also own 07 and 11, and that is the opposite corner to this empty lot. And I am the one who.
Ms. Moore, we're going to mute you at the moment.
Hello?
We've already allowed somebody else to speak. If you'll hold off a second. Okay, please proceed. I apologize.
Okay, no problem. And you're doing a great job, Miss Margaret.
Yes, she is.
So I'm the person who did say that the lot size was substandard, especially because we had no additional information about number of cars that she planned. But I would look forward to speaking with Ms. Spakes in the future, seeing as how she is a neighbor or mother lives nearby, like just down the block from me. But car lot, even with 10 cars, is still B3 and will require the commercial site standards. And that would be an improvement for our neighborhood as opposed to, yes, what is across the street at the salvage yard run by Southport. My other opposition has to do with putting a trailer there. So it's like the whole thing is temporary and not really a permanent improvement on the lot. And yes, commercial property can be very confusing because B2 is different from B3. And we just don't need one more B3 in this small part of Government Street where there is no turn lane. And then the question of the curb cut off of Government probably would still come up under ALDOT, because I know the one across the street, what did have to be closed. And so that concludes my comments.
Okay, is there, or has there been a structure on this site at any time in the past?
Yes, and it was very interesting during the census time when a person came and tried to figure it out. It was actually 2 lots with 2 buildings. One of the 2 buildings got run into by some speeding person, and it looked like the Wicked Witch of the West house. For a long time, it was demolished. And then the Art Glass of the South business was the second one. And they also owned what was 400 Morgan Ave, was actually inside the fence. So the back part on that little picture, the drawing of the current site, do you have that right there, Ms. Pappas? Where it shows the sketch of the fence and the curb cut, all the way to the south, with actually a little small wood frame building that was Morgan Avenue, but it was included in when that probably got all joined together some long time ago.
Okay. Any questions of the board for Ms. Enzor?
Enzor, you have it?
Enzor. You know how long ago there were structures on this property? I mean, how long? It doesn't seem like it's been that long.
You know, time just flies by. They demolished the Art Glass building, was the last of the 3, which was like closest to the east side there, in between that little driveway. So there would have been like a building facing Government, a building facing Government, and then back where the trailer indicator is where the little Morgan Avenue one was. But when I mentioned that about the census, we actually told the census taker, no, those 3 buildings are gone. I would say 5 years,
Okay.
maybe, that they all were torn down.
I remember structures being there. I just didn't know how long they've been gone.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And once again, any questions of the board?
Yes.
No, of the board. Hold on.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay. Now, Margaret, if you'll allow Ms. Moore into the opportunity to speak as an individual in support, I believe, of the application. Is that correct, Ms. Moore?
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon. I understand that you were calling my name. My phone was very staticky going in and out when we were talking about the other properties and the one on the end zone B3. You have lot 2411, that would be the opposite corner, and then also lot 2407. And the short answer to why we did not purchase those would be the price. So these were up in $139,000 to $165,000. So again, you heard Miss Ava Spates explain why she is involved in this community and why she's doing what she was doing. That was not within her budget. As far as the zoning is concerned, we did speak with Mr. Caldwell Whistler. And while it is a little bit confusing going through the zoning process, noting that there's what, 6 corners right here within about 800 feet. And having already have a brake shop, a transmission shop, and a few other auto needs right there. The area kind of is also already trimmed and groomed for Miss Ava's business. So it was another reason for purchasing in this area. But as far as the neighborhood itself, I heard some questions regarding what had been there in the past. So these lots, this entire block has really been up for sale since, well, that particular corner has been up for sale since 2008. Back when it was the glass shop and an additional building. Now, once those businesses closed in and around or in between 2008 and 2010, it had been noted that there was a lot of, I guess we could say, unsavourable traffic through this area. You know, one of the things, and being a community-minded individual, that Miss Ava brought to my attention was by, you know, grooming this corner, cleaning it up, having an open business for her neighborhood would make it have a better curb appeal, bring better group of people coming through instead of going in and out of the neighborhood. So I think that maybe helps answer some of those questions about price, zoning, why that lot. This one was listed at 59,000 as opposed to 165,000. But again, back to Mr. Caldwell, when we spoke, it was, you know, with the survey, proper usage, and permission of the zoning commission, we were just hopeful that Miss Ava could see her dreams realized at this property with an affordable tag to it.
Okay, before I go any further, we never did get your name and address for the record.
Yes, sir. My name is Chrissy Moore. My address is 113 Garnet Avenue.
Okay, and tell me what you've obviously been involved in her purchase of the property. What's your involvement? Did you handle real estate or?
I do handle real estate, but I am not born, but raised here in Mobile. I'm a consumer advocate. I've been helping local businesses any way and every way I can to the best of my ability grow in Mobile for the better part of 25 years. My family owns a local business here in Mobile, very successful. And I think that one of Mobile's major assets is our ability to have and grow locally. I think that's what makes us different than the rest of the world is we don't put all our eggs in one basket, and it helps our economy stay strong. So a consumer advocate, I love Mobile, and I love helping people like Miss Ava fulfill their dreams. So I'm not here for real estate near as much as I am just to aid and assist her.
Question, I take it this was one lot when it was purchased. Was there any work to combine two lots during your
No,
involvement?
sir. No, sir. They had previously been listed together.
Okay.
Or at the time that we purchased them, title had them both together.
Okay. Any questions of the board? All right. Margaret, do we have any correspondence that was provided to the board or statements that came in that we need to be aware of?
Yes, sir.
Before you do, if you'll mute everyone that's present in the meeting room. There we go.
Yes, we have received via the portal opposition from the following people: Susan Thomas, Bill Boswell, Edward Klott, Chris Enzor, Anna Bush, Janine Stebbins, Edward Oliver, Julie Hoagland, Brenda Strickland, Julie Watson, and Rennie Kimner.
Okay. And the staff's recommended for denial because it's a B2 and it would require a B3, is that correct?
That's correct. Also, you know, there is vacant B3 within this same block. I believe you had asked earlier about when the structure that was located here was removed, and based on Google Street View, it was removed between May of 2016 and July of 2017.
Okay. Yeah, I remember a previous applicant requesting a variance to utilize that studio for another purpose outside of the B2, if I remember correctly.
I believe what used to be Colonial Photography here at this corner, there was, I know, a request for a tattoo business.
Okay, that's the request I remember. Okay, any comments from the board?
This is Doug. I just would like to add, I want to make sure everybody understands that if this is approved, you're also approving a trailer on this site.
Yeah, I was already thinking about that question as well.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Anderson. Once again, any questions of the board? Comments? Once again, this will conclude our public hearing on the application, and the chair will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to deny.
Okay, Mr. Golden's made a motion to deny. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, Mr. Milling, second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Okay, motion carries. Application was denied. All right, Margaret, if you'll clear the waiting room and invite our next applicant and any speakers in favor or opposition. And while she's doing that, Mr. Anderson, when we get close to calling for a vote on this particular one, I may ask you to restate your earlier comment, if that's
Sure.
appropriate.
Be glad to anytime.
Okay.
Hello, Jerry Bird here.
Okay, we'll do a sound check and then we'll mute. I have admitted into the meeting Jerry Bird for the applicant. Jerry, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Okay, do you have Billy Terrell with you?
Do I have what?
Do you have Billy Terrell with you?
No.
Okay.
Riley Terrell's the owner's name.
Okay. He is not in the waiting room and was not at any
It was not
point.
confirmed, Margaret.
Okay, thank you. Then in opposition, I have Kevin Quinn. Kevin, can you hear us?
Yes, ma'am. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
Yes. And you have Mr. Jordan with you?
Yes, ma'am. I'm here also.
Okay. I'm going to mute everyone until the chairman calls you. And Mr. Chairman,
Okay. All right. This is application 6362, 1704 McGill Avenue. And if you'll admit the applicant's rep, turn off his mute.
Okay.
All right. Mr. Bird, if you'll give us your name and address for the record.
Okay, Gerald Bird, Bird Surveying, 2609 Halls Mill Road, Mobile, Alabama, 36606.
Have you seen the well, before you proceed, have you seen the staff's recommendations?
Yes, I have, and we're in agreement with those.
Okay. And before we proceed with any comments, any questions of the board for Mr. Bird? Okay, Mr. Bird, I'll ask. I've seen photos of this location, and it appears there are 4 entrances to the dwelling. 2 are via stairs on opposite sides of the facility. And I take it there's entrances below the stairs or in that proximity. Is
That's
that correct?
That's
Okay.
correct.
All right. And do we have utilities to each of these independently?
Yes, there are 4 meter bases, power company meter bases, and 3 of them have meters on them. There are 4 gas meter locations. 3 of them have gas meters on them.
Okay.
And there's 4 street addresses recognized on the city website,
Okay.
which is 1704 ABCD.
Okay. And now, is this facility occupied in any way at this time?
No, the owner has gotten a demo permit to gut the buildings out, and he has done that. It's just stud walls in there at this point in time.
Okay. How long has the unit been, or the structure been vacant? Just out of curiosity.
That I don't know.
Okay.
Now,
How long has this owner owned it?
Ooh, he bought it this year.
Okay. Rather recent then.
I would say this, that from my past experience, and I think it's the same, that if a unit or house or anything has been vacant for more than 12 months, that the power company or the gas companies will not arbitrarily just set a meter. They have to do the inspections and this kind of thing. I don't know if they could do an inspection with the state it was in or not, but we do know that those meters are in place out there today.
Okay, so it probably has not been vacant that long based on your experience is what you're stating.
That's right. That's correct.
All right. Any other questions of the board for Mr. Byrd?
Yes, sir. Jerry, one quick question. You mentioned it's showing A, B, C, D, and I'm looking at GIS. It's showing a B and a C, and maybe
Right,
you're looking at
that's
it
on the
somewhere else.
picture. Click on the building and scroll down. Let me make sure I've got it up on mine too. I want where when it identifies.
I do.
Yeah, at the bottom
I
where
do.
it says,
I see addresses there.
Yeah.
A, B, C, D.
Right.
Okay. Mr. Golden, do you have any further questions?
That's it. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions of the board for Mr. Byrd? All right. If you will, allow Mr. Byrd to hang out in the waiting room and bring in our other 2 individuals, Mr. Gwynn and Jordan, I believe, that are in opposition.
Yes, and I'm fixing to unmute them, and I'm going to ask them to unmute and wanted to read into the record. The board was provided opposition via the portal from Susan Thomas, and then emails from Kevin Quinn and Amanda Turner. One of the emails did include a link to an online petition.
Okay, and we have seen the online petition as well. All right, who will speak with us first?
Kevin Quinn.
Your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Kevin Quinn, and my address is 16 South Reed Avenue. I also own 32 South Reed Avenue, which is adjacent to the proposed fourplex at 1704 McGill Avenue.
Okay. Please proceed with your comments.
Okay. When I bought my house on the street over 10 years ago, I fixed it up. Then I bought this second house and have been working on fixing it up. Our neighbors have been fixing up their houses. South Reed Avenue has been doing real well. And then this proposal came along, and it's got everybody kind of up in arms. We're afraid our property values are gonna decrease. We're afraid of traffic, crime, all the things that go along with apartment complexes.
Now, do you occupy either of the properties you own
Yes,
on?
I do. I occupy both of them.
Okay. Just from a perspective of seeing the structure, would it appear to be a multi-tenant structure when you purchased your property? Or did it, I should say?
When I bought my property, I was told that it had originally been a community washateria, is what its purpose was when it was first built.
And you only knew of one person.
And I only knew of one person living in the structure the 12 years I've been on South Reed Avenue.
Okay. All right, any questions of the board for Mr. Quinn? All right, Mr. Jordan, are you still in the waiting room?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, your name and address for the record.
My name is Buzz Jordan. I live at 15 South Reed Avenue. And I also own a residence at 17 South Reed Avenue. I've been living there since 1985, so about 35 years. This area, and we've always been told this is a single family residential district. It's in a historic district, the old Dolphin Way district, who I believe one of our letters is from the director of that organization. We also have the petition from 60 people that are aware of it and that are concerned about this development. He's asking for a bunch of changes in use and parking and access and landscaping. No use variance has been granted in this immediate area in as long as I can remember. It lost its non-conforming uses years and years and years ago. This is being used for commercial use. No variance shall be granted according to the zoning ordinance where economics are the basis for the application. And we submit, oh, by the way, I'm also the attorney for Kevin Quinn. I'm a resident, so I'm a concerned resident and his legal counsel. But the zoning ordinance states that no variance shall be granted where economics are the basis for the application. And that can be the only basis for this application is for a single family district area to increase it 4 times, where instead of a single family, you're going to have 4 different families in this single unit, in this historic district neighborhood, single family district neighborhood. So if they have a reason other than economics where they want to increase this into a 4 separate person apartment complex, then we'd like to hear that. I submit there are no very unusual characteristics of this property that would require that. It doesn't comply with the access of a 10-foot versus a 24-foot driveway. It doesn't comply with parking, 5 versus 6. It doesn't comply with use, single family district. It doesn't comply with the landscaping requirements that were listed in the report that I reviewed. And so that is that's our position. Thank you very much.
Mr. Jordan, since you're a longtime resident of the area, do you remember this being utilized for any particular use outside of a residential structure?
I do not.
Can you see how the board might see this as a 4-person or 4 apartment structure based on the way it's laid out?
Well, I could see that for an economic reason that, I'd like to, there are several big houses on our street that would be great to convert into apartments where you could do a room by room, board by board, and make a lot of money by converting to that. But this building could easily be it could easily convert it into a single residential facility and be in compliance with the the zoning that's in existence, that has been in existence in this neighborhood forever and ever, because it is single family, because it is historic. So, I mean, and the old Dolphin Way, you know, they're concerned too, because it's preserving the historical character of the old Dolphin Way community and the neighborhood. So, you know, if he were to convert this into or use it as a, you know, he's already said he's going to gut it all and he's going to renovate it and fix it up. Well, that's single family. That's perfect. We wouldn't have any problem with that. But instead, he wants to put in 4 different families or 4 different rental units or 4 different tenants strictly for economic advantage, which this neighborhood was not designed for apartment complexes.
One minute.
Okay.
And my understanding is there's only been one person living there for about the last 12 years. And this gentleman just purchased it for economic gain, which, you know, that neighborhood, that street has developed well. I mean, it's come along. It's great. Property values are astronomical. And it just seems like he could develop it. If that's his true goal, to make the neighborhood better. But if it's for economic reasons, then that's outside the spirit of the zoning ordinance. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions of the board for Mr. Jordan?
Mr. Chair, Mr.
Yes.
Chairman,
Yes.
question for Mr. Jordan. With all due respect, Buzz, what's right across the street from it?
The Little Sisters of the Poor.
How many tenants are over there?
I don't know. I know it's a Catholic nursing home.
Yeah.
And with a lot of parking.
Yeah, and
it's been there for a long, long time.
I'm a member.
Apparently, it's very important for that community to have that there.
I live in the neighborhood too, in Old Dolphin Way. But when you're talking about historic character, I question whether that property is a part of the historic character. But that's all I got to say. All
right. Let's give Mr. Byrd 2 minutes for a rebuttal. Margaret, if he has any comments to
unmute.
Yikes.
Mr. Byrd, you're still muted.
There. Am I unmuted?
You're good now. You want to go ahead with your response?
Right. Of course, this building, you can see by the pictures I submitted, it was constructed as a 4-unit apartment building, probably with a city permit when it was constructed. Now, it was built into that neighborhood before, I presume, before it was the old Dolphin Way Historic District. Mr. Jordan wants to call it historic, and I don't think you can change the character of a historic building, but the owner, yes, when I said he gutted it, hey, they took the sheetrock off the walls, they took cabinets out, they're ready to put in whatever updating of wiring and plumbing and insulation and put sheetrock back on to rent them out. These units, previously stated in the Planning Commission meeting when we were there, will rent in the $1,000 to $1,100, $1,000 to $1,100 range per unit. And they will be on a minimum of 1-year lease. There won't be much moving in and moving out. But the letters of opposition, the one from the historic district chairman, I guess, Susan Thomas, she says the parking is inadequate and would spill over into a narrow street. Right now, they could put 3 units in with city's blessings, I think. They recognize 3 units and not put a parking lot in. That parking would, in fact, be on the street. The owner wants to put in the parking lot in the back to alleviate that problem. Park in the rear, and yes, we'll be 1 unit, 1 car short by the city code, but if there's only 1 per unit, which was stated in one of the other letters, there will be adequate parking in the rear for that. And cleaning that building up, I think, would be a real asset to the neighborhood. And I think we've gone over, by the way, a lot of the neighbors still think that the yellow house on South Reed Avenue is part of this application, when in fact it's not. There is no intent to turn that into multiple units. It is R1. It's going to be R1. So therefore they will, they don't have that fear. And I think Mr. Jordan is next door at 32. No, well, one person is next to that house, and it will be renovated. But this application is only for this unit that was built as a fourplex apartment building and has existed for many years.
Okay. You referenced 3 units were equipped with.
I think today that the city recognizes 3 units, even though it's a 4-unit building. That was one of our requests, is to recognize the 4th unit as being in the apartment.
Okay, and why do you believe the city recognizes 3 units?
From previous conversations, I think we've had these conversations during the Planning Commission reports, and that's it's just my remembrance on that when I said that. I don't know.
Okay.
It is the 4th unit is all that we were asking for acknowledgement of.
Okay. All right. Anything else, Mr. Byrd, before we conclude the public hearing? Okay, Mr. Anderson, do you have anything to share with the board as it relates?
Well, I sent y'all the email before the meeting after I did my research at staff's request. I'll be glad to answer any questions. I will add that here we got a building that was, it's undisputed, it was built before the zoning ordinance was adopted. And it's been built and maintained as a 4-unit building. Whether there was 3 or 4 units being occupied in the last 10 or 15 years, I'm not sure that really matters. It was built as 4 units. It's still 4 units there. It's got 4 connections to the utilities. Just because a particular unit in the house was not rented for a period of time does not in and of itself lose its nonconformity. The law of Alabama states that abandoning a use to lose your nonconforming status is all about intent. A lot of ordinances use the 2-year time period. Ours used to, it still might, but it's a case-by-case method analysis, looking at the facts in the intent of the owner. And if there were 4 units there when it was built and used, even off and on over the last 40 or 50 years, it hasn't lost its non-conforming status. So, yeah, I'm not sure even that 1 unit has lost its non-conforming status. But I reviewed all the most recent, the last 20 years worth of Alabama Supreme Court decisions in this area, and comparing the facts and those opinions to this, I think the gentleman is, the owner is entitled to the use variance. This is not, we're not changing anything. Buzz talks about we're changing this. We're not changing the use. It's been this use since before the zoning ordinance.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Anderson?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are we ready to move forward, Mr. Chairman?
I have a question, Doug. So we had an application in front of us for over on Cherokee, not far, also in the Midtown area. And that was denied based on the fact that it, you know, my recollection was that the use had fallen out, you know, it hadn't been utilized in such fashion within a certain number of years, and then we denied it.
I'm sorry, what was the application for? I don't.
I believe it was late 2018 over on Cherokee.
It was on
government.
Linecoff, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think this was closer up over here off government across, there's Rickerby and then Cherokee's right there. Kind of real close to the loop.
Was it residential or commercial?
It was in the neighborhood.
Okay.
Similar to this one. Now that was a very large structure that I couldn't tell you. I mean, it was historic. I couldn't tell you if it was how it was originally built, but I know we denied it.
Yeah, Lewis, I remember that one as well.
I vaguely remember the discussion, it being a big structure, but I don't recall any of the facts in that one. I just know that you cannot look at it strictly from a 2-year time period for the abandonment. It's all about intent. And since this building since the 4 units still exist, but they're non-conforming use, and I understand your point, but in our practice in the past, the non-conforming use has expired, and that's what I struggle with. I feel like we're all of a sudden. Yeah, I mean, even the Supreme Court struggles with it because it's a case-by-case factual analysis on all the facts, including trying to determine the intent of the owner, and trying to determine somebody else's intent sometimes can be very difficult.
I think the other applications, we've at times had issues where they may have had one utility or fewer utilities and addresses than what the actual applicant was trying to obtain.
Yeah, I do remember that one. That Lewis is talking about. And if I remember correctly, there was a gentleman that bought an old house, and there was only 1 meter, and he was, if I remember correctly, claimed that he was just billing that it had been used as a multi-tenant building, even though there was only just 1 unit, one meter. I think that was his case in that one.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I think, guys, we need to look at what this building is. Like Buzz was saying, well, if he's going to spend that much money on it, he ought to make it a single family house, and he's going to knock it out of the park. My God, this is a commercial building that was built in the 40s, and it is not a house. And the only thing it could be used for in the neighborhood is an apartment building. We're not going to put a business on McGill Street. It's not a house. It'll never be a house. And the fact that they are fixing this up and utilizing this ugly old washateria, I think is an absolute 100% a hardship, because this is not a house. And I think we all understand that it's a commercial building that was built way back before the zoning ordinance. So I think there's a clear hardship, but that's just my opinion.
Well, and I would say that the fact it has 4 addresses, 4 utilities, gives the impression it's more than a single residential structure.
Yeah, I think the neighborhood and the opposition is trying to say that a zebra is an elephant. Well, a zebra is a zebra.
Okay, any other comments from the board before we conclude this application? All right, staff's recommended for approval, subject to conditions. The applicant has agreed to the conditions. Our legal advisor has reviewed it from a legal standpoint and stated that it has, based on the intent, most likely not lost its non-conforming use. And I think several of the board members have stated that there are conditions that would warrant a hardship or makes this unique as it relates to the application. So therefore, the chair will entertain a motion.
Move for approval, Mr. Chair.
Subject to staff's recommendations?
Yes.
Okay, do I have a second? Once
Second,
again,
second.
I have a second.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Davis.
Yes, sir. Second.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, so the motion passes unanimously, correct?
Sounds like it.
All right, therefore, this application has been approved. All right, any other business for the board today? Miss Margaret, will you close out the waiting room and allow us to conclude the meeting? Mr. Anderson, anything that needs to be reported for the board?
No, sir, not today, not this month.
Okay. All right. Well, Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Have a motion to adjourn. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All right. Y'all have a good holiday.